What do you think has been one of the greatest lessons for you throughout your leadership journey or in life?
I think so much about what we do is about relationships, building relationships, fostering relationships. That's how we get things done in organizations. That's how we get things done on teams. That's how we get things done at home. That's how we get things done with our family. So I think fostering, building, nurturing relationships, I think is one of the most important aspects of being a leader, being a husband, being a father, being a community member. Quite important. It has been very important in my career.
And Wolf, as you were building your team around you, or when you were going into those higher leadership roles, how did you make sure that you had the right support system around you?
Well, I think a lot of that sort of comes internally, that you need to recognize as you are progressing in your career, that you need to change and evolve as a leader, and you need to let go, because you can't do it all, and you're not even expected to do it all. Your staff don't want you to do it all. They want to have interesting projects and assignments as well. It's about recognizing that you don't have to do it all, you can't do it all, and also that not everything you do has to be perfection. You can't get an A+ on everything. I often I work with a lot of students, and I've seen students who have this desire that everything has to be an A+. And then when they get into the work environment, when they might be working on 30 different initiatives, you need to prioritize. You need to figure out strategically what's really important. Where do I need to spend effort and do, and get an A+, do really, really well? Where is it okay if I just get a B- or a C+? As leaders, as I've evolved in my career, I often say now that I'm just skating along. Like, I really don't know what's happening in all those departments that you listed. I have no idea what's really happening at the front line. And so you need to be comfortable with that. You need to be able to let go, trust others, and you need to delegate as well.
Sort of power by empowering others.
Yes, for sure, for sure. I'm as successful as the people that I have behind me. And so their success is my success. And my role is to make my boss successful. And so what do I need to do to make the CEO a success? You often need to, the latest buzzword during the pandemic is pivot. And sometimes in our leadership roles, we need to pivot because that's what's required.
So important, right? Especially now with COVID, we pivoted in no time.
All the time. Yeah. We're constantly pivoting.
When you're in that position to recruit for your team, is there one question that you typically ask your interviewees?
No, I don't think there is sort of one question that helps me define whether or not they're going to be a great team member. I often do think, though, it's about obviously the fit and the relationships and how they're going to work with the team. That's always been more important than any particular hard skill, because I think that can still be learned. And often I assume that if they're going to be the director of IT, that they have that, the skill set about being knowledgeable about information technology. Often I'm recruiting for directors, and I'm really looking for that fit, people that are strategic. So I really don't have a question. I'm looking at those softer skills.
When you do have your team around you, how do you nurture their development, the leadership, or identify high-performing leaders potentially, for coming into your role?
Yeah, I try to get out of the way. That's what I do, because if you've got the right people around you, they don't want me to micromanage the work that they do. I really try to be as hands-off as I possibly can, provide strategic input, integrate things because of the role that I have and maybe the different tables that I sit at. I think you really need to trust your team and trust the directors or the managers that are reporting to you. Give them a lot of freedom, and of course also provide feedback and encouragement.
You were mentioning that give your team the freedom to do what they can do and allow them to make those decisions. What if we have someone who is working with a leader who is more, detail oriented, finds it hard to delegate. What can leaders in those positions do to still be able to, ask for more work and show that they can do?
Maybe get one step ahead of the leader and to demonstrate that even without direction, they can produce, come well prepared, back to demonstrating their capacity, that they can take on more, and that they've thought about some of the things that the leader might come forward with in terms of their idea or their perspective.
And Wolf, what advice do you have for ambitious leaders who are looking to grow into your shoes one day?
Well, I encourage all of the people that I work with that don't have their masters to get their masters. I encourage them to go to U of T to get their masters there. If you're already working in an organization, there isn't one path to any particular, role or success. I think it's about relationships. It's about stepping forward and volunteering and probably saying yes to a lot of things when you're an emerging leader. Then prioritizing and recognizing what you need to do an A+ on, and what is okay if it's not an A+. Those are some of the things I would say. I also say to leaders that when your boss changes, it's like getting a new job. You can either make it work with the new person, or you need to get a new job. And so people have to be flexible, have to be adaptable. Do what you can to make your boss look good. And that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing for the organization. That's the right thing for your career. And you'd probably expect the same of the people that report to you. So those are some of the words of advice that I give to emerging leaders.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, you mentioned, if you don't have a master's, go and do a master's. I'm curious because now there's a lot of talk about formal education and the role of formal education and how it's going to change, especially because some of the big consulting firms don't even have that minimum requirement for a degree. So where do you think that has a place in healthcare, or, does it or does it not? And how does it change things for us?
Yeah. Good question. I'm influenced by my age and how my career has progressed, and by the fact that I'm at the university, and the fact that I have, administrative residents that are doing their master's degrees. And I'm also impacted by the fact that, to become a manager or certainly a director in this organization and in many hospitals, you need to have a master's. So this is probably older school thinking. I totally recognize that, and it could be different in 5 or 10 years. I believe it's still the appropriate advice for the present time. I also think it's something that can never be taken away from you. And I don't really say that it has to be a master's in health administrations. I just think it has to be a master's, because that does broaden your horizon. Hopefully it changes you as an individual, and you grow and you develop and you become hopefully a better person. And so that's what it's about. MBAs are a dime a dozen, and just because you have an MBA doesn't mean that you're going to be a successful leader. For sure, I've seen that as well. I've worked with a lot of students, and yes, they're in their master's program, but they won't be good managers. They won't be good leaders. No one's going to follow them. It's a combination of skills and abilities and characteristics. But I would still say nowadays, you have nothing to lose by getting that degree.
Education is something that nobody can ever take from you.